very well. There's a lot of interesting matches still to come. Roddy, it's time to dive on into Death Or. We're going to start it off down in the bottom right with our blue Terran from Dragon and Phoenix Gaming. It is Cure.
Sorry, man, cats really got to me. Cure, you just need to be a little less consistent, okay? And in the top left side of Death Aura, we're going to take a look at the main base of the Shield Elvire. Once upon a time, he made it to a finals. He wants to win it all this year. It's Stats.
He's looking pretty good today, you know. Stats has really been just so consistent himself, but consistently good, Roddy.
Yeah. I got you, Waddy. I got you.
Yeah.
Also, there is something perhaps poetic about the fact that maybe the one tournament where Trap kind of just drops the ball, it's time for Stats to show up in a very big way, right? Because I kind of feel for 2-3 years in a row, everybody looked at Stats and it's like, yeah, Stats is probably the best Protoss player in the world. Some people said like, no, I think Trap's already there, but he never really had the results to back that up. Classic obviously had his moments, he deserves a shout out, and Zest is always good and scary. But lately, it's all been about Trap. Well, Trap didn't make it into the round of 12, so I think it's time for Stats to retake that crown.
Yeah, Stats is going to give us the Protoss that we need in these playoffs, you know. I believe in him. As we get ourselves set up, we are going to be seeing that Marine opening. We've been seeing, especially Cure, really enjoying a lot of these Marine openings. Just doesn't find the value in the Reaper a lot of the time nowadays. Doesn't feel like it gives you that much information. Sometimes he will see one of the builds that Cure likes a lot is that kind of Marine, 3 Marines into then when you get a reactor up, like a double Reaper build. So maybe it's something to keep an eye on through the early moments.
Yeah, Stats does have that little wall off, right, with the gateway and the cybernetics core, so I'm not sure if that would be a great moment to bust it out. Because if 2 Reapers can only run into the natural, I think you can have a very hard time finding a lot of damage with it. But we'll keep an eye on everything. Cure is playing this safe. He's going for a very early bunker, despite the fact that he SCV scouted. It seems like a Hellion. I'm keeping a close eye on that SCV. I was like, maybe that SCV is out and about on the map, building a starport, but it's just heading home, so that's not going to be the build.
Alright, so yeah, not a lot really too exciting super early on as we just see Stats opting for that Twilight Council, going to go into some pretty regular Blink play. Maybe the potential to switch up into Dark Shrine. We are going to see some reactive factory units here with a second Rax building as well. So perhaps just a couple of Hellions, get some map control with that, and then go into the bio. Big time behind it is a Robo after that Twilight, Roddy, so there's definitely something more aggressive coming. Dark Shrine or 4 Gates of Blink, more likely.
Yeah, exactly. You don't see, I feel like, the 4-gate Blink Stalker opening super often on Death Aura, but if you think about it, plenty of space to jump into that main base, so I wouldn't hate seeing it, but it could also be a Dark Shrine. Does seem like we're heading towards Blink though, because if it was a Dark Shrine, he would have already built it.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
I was with you. I was going to say no reason to be delaying the Dark Shrine, right? Want those DTs as soon as possible, but apparently just didn't line up with the build right away. So, yeah, Dark Shrine on its way down to Stats is going to bring something that little bit... It's funny, right? Because I feel like a lot of people don't expect that out of Stats. Because it's like, oh, Stats, we expect Stats to just be that kind of, you know, straight up macro guy, goes Blink, puts some pressure on, takes 3 bases. But of course, the Dark Shrine opening nowadays can lead into a lot of that, you know, as well.
Yep. But look at the build that Cure is obviously going for, right? You already mentioned it. It was barracks into factory, reactor swap, and then a second barracks. This obviously means, guys, that your starport is very late. If your starport is very late, how are you supposed to really see anything that's happening in the main base of Protoss? On top of that, he never went for a Reaper. And by the time this starport is done, no one in his right mind would ever put a tech lab on that starport. So I'm actually very worried here for Cure, because unless I'm crazy, he also doesn't have an eBay.
Yep, no, I think he's going to be very stuck for detection as well. You're right. The build just does not really lend itself to A, figuring this out, and B, he does. That's an unfortunate position. If he noticed it, right, as long as he realized that it is, and he does put an engineering bay down straight away, so it seems like he will make the, you know, right decisions here. But I mean, still, got to wait for that eBay. Yeah, you've got a couple of scans. This should still be problematic.
Yes, there's still a lot of potential here for Stats to do a lot of damage with the Dark Templars. The first one runs into the natural. There is a scan available, as we can see. Oh, that's smart. He's actually attacking the Marines. I was about to say, if he doesn't pull SCVs, he's not going to win that fight. The second scan goes down in the main base, but now there is still that awkward moment. Whoa, that War Prism took a beating. I didn't see how that happened.
It did take a lot of damage, didn't it? So a little bit unlucky because now you can't really go back in as easily, and especially usually you like to follow this up with...
Widowmine.
Oh, yeah, okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, I didn't realize there was a Widow Mine there either. Yeah, no, we usually like to follow this up with the Archon drop, right? So it's very tough to do that when your Warp Prism's on low HP. At least he got rid of the Widow Mine, but now there's a Viking out, so it feels like the Archons are not going to do a lot right now. Actually, pretty good defense from Pure all around.
Mate, I think if you play this scenario 10 times, I don't think you're ever going to defend it better than Cure just did. With how late the missile turrets were, how late that engineering bay was, and obviously no access to a Raven. This really was about as good as it was ever going to be. And that's good news for us, right? We're hoping for a fun, exciting game with a little bit of back and forth trading. And we didn't want to see a couple of Dark Templars just straight up win it.
Nope, we really did not. I want these guys to go late game, right? We know stats is wonderful there. It's what Cure seems to like to try and do in TVP, whether it works out all the time or not. As we do have a Medivac making its way around the top side. So Cure's turn to get a little bit aggressive, Roddy. Is he going to find some damage?
Yeah, I mean, it's always tricky against perhaps defensive Dark Templars, but on the other hand, you can still kind of outmaneuver those. And the downside of opening up with Dark Templars and 2 Archons, what is that actual blink is going to be very late. So I feel like there is potential for Cure to find some damage. That Warp Prism isn't going to follow the Medivac. I do believe there is something heading towards the main base too. Was that Viking? No, that's a second Medivac. I really feel that the opportunity is here for Cure to do damage. Now he just needs to find the right place and the right time.
Yeah, but no, it definitely feels like there should be opportunities. Obviously, you've got them 2 different Medivacs, 2 different locations. Now you're going to get to start pulling stats around a little bit, especially because right now stats isn't ready for this Medivac, so he is going to have to go and respond a little bit late, and that's where things start to get out of control if you're the Protoss trying to defend against this Terran who can go absolutely anywhere.
I don't really want to see him pick up those units yet. I was about to say, I feel like we can fight that. It's 1 Zealot, 2 Zealots. He had Stim, and +1 was about to finish up too. We do have an extra drop showing up, but Cure, time is ticking, my friend. You've been 9-10 workers behind for quite some time. He is obviously going up to 3 bases, and we have 2 more Medivacs heading towards the main of stats. He is finding itsy-bitsy bits of damage, but it's not enough. I feel like he needs more than this.
I don't like that. It's just, I liked it initially, like 1 Medivac here, 1 Medivac there, but now it feels like these singular drops are just not enough substance to really get anything done. Love to see the 2 Medivacs now moving out. Just something a little bit larger, because now Stats knows about the drop play. 1 Medivac of units is never really going to get much done.
Well, Wadi, that's why he's going to go for the triple drop now. A couple of Stalkers are left behind in the main base, but good positioning here by Cure, kind of avoiding them, and that means there's a lot of firepower in this Terran army. +1 obviously has been done for quite some time. Widow Mine will connect with a Stalker. There's another mine near the ramp, but Stats does a very good job in avoiding that Widow Mine from connecting. It looked promising, but in the end, Stats is living up to his nickname, the Shield of Fire. And once again, Wadi doesn't really take a lot of damage, and he is absolutely starting to stabilize here.
Yeah, the defense has been spot on. And look at Q, not even an orbital on the 3rd base just yet, right? So he's really going to be struggling on his own economy. He's down 10 workers. That's fairly normal, but again, then you want that orbital up and running, so you've got the extra mule in play. These are just the little things that will add up. And you can see that Q are now going to attempt to go in towards the Ghost Academy. Well, boy, does he need it, because Storm is already researching. So we're going to have Charge Lock Storm, all the good stuff here from Staff to take some really good fights down the line.
Yeah, the one thing that's kind of working out for Cure, I guess, is that he will be in full upgrade ahead. And I think Stats is still working on a single forge, but Stats is just pretty far ahead in the tech department. And that is a lovely thing to say if you're a Protoss in this matchup. If you've got Storm before the first Ghost is out on the field, you know you've done something right in the first 9 minutes of this game. And it wasn't really the Dark Templars, it's just the follow-up defense that has been absolutely perfect by Stats.
Yeah, no, yes, his build offensively was not brilliant, but yeah, the defense was fantastic. As now, gonna see a little bit of a fight breaking out, and his Stats just to clean up. He does get a couple of late Widow Mine shots there. The drop attempt into the main base, well, Stats has a few units moving into position, and Stalkers blink up as well, and this is gonna get shut down while Stats is already moving across the map. So now, Q is gonna have to find a defense after just losing a chunk of units.
Yeah, and how many units does he really have at home? I mean, Stats doesn't even truly need to commit here, right? Because he's a 4-base Protoss, he's got a lot of extra stuff on the way, but he feels like it's the right thing to do. Cure tries to go for it, but he gets scared off by the shield batteries and the 2 High Templars that were still waiting to protect that base. And this is not a winnable fight for Cure, I think, unless he somehow lands the best EMPs ever, but he's in a lot of trouble, Wadi. All the Medivacs are out and about on the map, and that means you've got no healing for this army. This seems like an impossible hold.
It just feels like there's no army here at all. A couple of EMPs come in from the high ground, helping against the Archon's great, but there's the first storm coming down, and there's just no answer to the storm anymore. The High Templar waited it out in the Warp Prism, made sure they weren't hit by EMPs. Now some medevacs coming back home, but damage is already done. 21 workers down in stats. Well, he has the Prism here, right? So he can keep on warping in if he needs to, and yeah, everything just looking fantastic for him. Is the Prism still there? Did it go down?
No, the Prism did go down. I believe the Viking finished it off, but the Orbital also casually went down. So it's like, yeah, in the end, after we brought the units back that were out on the map, we sort of held on the side of Cure, but does this really qualify as a hold? Minus 28 workers, minus 2 bases. He's not down 1 base, he's down 2 bases against the Protoss. I almost think you have to pull the SCVs, because you cannot macro your way out of this, right? Well, he's gonna try, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think pull the SCVs, take advantage of the fact that you just used up all the storms and, you know, had a fairly good fight when it comes to clearing out some of Stat's army at the end there. Take advantage of that. I think that's your best shot. Rebuilding a command center, trying to get the ghost count back up. I mean, these are things which I agree, it's just not going to be enough. I mean, by the time you're realistically back on your feet as Q, guess what Stats is going to have? Triple Robo pumping out Colossi or Disruptors, whichever he chooses.
Yeah, Triple Robo is a power play if I've ever seen one coming out of the Protoss. Yeah, especially because Cure, after all of that took place and he picked off quite a few units, he had like a 25 to a 30 army supply advantage because all of his medevacs were alive since they never participated in the battle. Then all of a sudden, Bio with those medevacs and a couple of SCVs in the front, maybe you can avoid the storms, maybe you can land that one EMP on the leftover ghost, but yeah, dragging this game out seems like, well, an uphill battle if I've ever seen one, as he's just eating storms left, right, and center at this point. 3 disruptors at a time being produced for Stats. Life is good for Stats.
Yeah, it really is. We're going to see Cure attempting to go up the ramp. EMPs come down, but guess what? Straight after the High Templar out of the Prism, and they are getting in on the action with those storms. SCVs are dying across the map because there's no counter to those Zealots, because guess what? Cure just doesn't have the numbers, because he lost a natural command center a couple minutes ago, and like we've been saying, rebuilding out of that has always going to be an uphill battle, and it absolutely was. Stats closes it out with relative ease, Roddy. Just the defense in the early stages after his DTs didn't do that much. Defensively, perfection, and just really delivered.
Yeah, no, I think that's what this entire game comes down to, right? We can't emphasize enough on how difficult it can be for a Protoss to defend perfectly against medevacs where bio units have Stim 2. If you don't have Blink Stalkers or you don't have like a Void Ray or a Phoenix chasing those medevacs, it's really hard. It's so easy to be out of position, but Stats just always had units either in the perfect spot or very nearby, and the most he ever lost was just a couple units, but his probe lines were virtually untouched, and that just put himself in a very good position to eventually make an attack that perhaps wasn't super necessary, but Cure had 5 medevacs of bio units flying around the map, never doing anything, and Stats is like, well, cool, how much do you really have at home then? And the answer was not much.
Yeah, no, I really do feel like Cure started to do the right thing, right? You know, dropping a couple extra medevacs and stuff here and there, but it just never really got going. You know, you got to the point where Stats is able to kind of push you back into medevacs, and then you drop, and you've got so little left in your drop that he can just warp in 2 or 3 Zealots, and he's kind of fine. It gets a little bit silly, and that just allowed him to go straight across the map, take advantage. Again, not enough units back on that other side of the map, so it really was just kind of plain sailing from there. Stats taking a 1-0 lead. We mentioned, obviously, Cure really needing a 2-0 maybe to get out this group, but of course, for Stats, a clean win for him would really put him in a position to maybe win this group still.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, Stats does need to win pretty much everything 2-0 because he lost the head-to-head against Rogue, right? That was his opening series. He lost that one. So you don't want to have the exact same score as Rogue in the end. Let's say they both go 4-1. Well, Rogue beat Stats, so if they have the same map score, that means that Rogue is going to win the group, and winning the group is a big deal because that means you immediately get seeded into the quarterfinals, and you don't have to play a round of 12 against guys like maybe Amaru, Innovation, Clem, Raynor. You know, that round of 12 is ridiculous, Waddy, so if you can avoid it, you absolutely want to do so.
Yeah, the playoffs of this tournament are absolutely stacked. They begin tomorrow, and we can't wait. I mean, can't wait to see who actually joins them as well, because the lineup so far is so good, like you say. It's not going to be easy whoever you face off against. You would like to just go 1 round forward for free as we kick off into our second map now. In the top left-hand corner, can he somehow claw his way back into this series and into this group maybe? From Dragon Phoenix Gaming, this is Cure.
And in the bottom right side of Romanticide, we're taking a look at our Korean Protoss. He's up 1-0 and looked mighty fine in game 1. The Shield of Ire stats. You know what, to go back to that previous game real quick, when that first medevac like found a couple probes and then he picked up units and he kind of just let it hover there, I was like, yeah, that's cool. And the second medevac, it didn't have much, right? I think it was 2 Marauders, 4 Marines, but 2 Marauders, 4 Marines, Stim and a medevac with +1. They can absolutely take care of 2 Stalkers and 2 Zealots, is what I believe it was. And I was so shocked to see Cure not stick around there, because I think if you put Bjorn in that position, he's actually gonna let those units stay on the ground, let them fire, and every single Stalker shot that goes towards a Marauder, you can even pick up the Marauder and you can avoid a shot. Stats needed way more units, in my eyes, to defend against that 1-drop with Stim than he had there. But Cure just gave up and gave Stats extra time to warp in more units. And I thought that was a pretty bizarre judgment call.
I mean, if you force even more units over there and keep units of Stats in that main base, it opens up the avenues for every other attack, right? And then maybe something else is out of position. Maybe that is when you can jump on the 3rd base, because we never saw any opportunity really for Cure to do that. So, no, I'm with you. You got to take the advantages or the chances that you have. And it felt like you was always just a little too afraid to try and make the most with those drops.
Yep. And once again, compliments to Stats for realizing at one point that there was just so much supply of Cure flying around the map. He obviously had like the quad drop heading towards the main base at one point, but then Cure only unloaded half the medevacs. He's like, wow, I just lost the medevac, Stalker's blinked. So he didn't even unload half of it, and he decided to just back off. And then says like, all right, mate, enough is enough. I know I cannot touch those medevacs if they are above the airspace. I'm just gonna run into your natural and try to close this game out. Anyways, we'll see if Cure can find some more success here in game 2. Obviously needs to absolutely win this game and somehow needs to 2-0 in the next one to have a chance. Not even then he's guaranteed, but to have a chance to advance. And it seems like we're gonna start things off with a proxy factory. Waddy, what is this all about?
Probably gonna see Hellions, right? A Hellion drop. Maybe you can go Hellions into Widow Mines and go for a couple medevacs. The thing is with the factory proxy, you don't usually need that for Hellions specifically, so maybe I'm leaning a little bit more towards like a Widow Mine drop further down the line, but for now it's just one Hellion. That or you go like, there's got to be some future plan for having the factory on the map. It just doesn't make sense just for a Hellion drop.
No, because normally we are quite familiar with the starport being proxied, of course, and then a couple of Hellions just drive to the other side, as these Marines do take a really good position against the Adepts. First Adept falls, the second Adept falls. Well, that's absolutely perfect for Cure, because now it's very unlikely that Stats is ever going to find out that there is a proxy factory and that there is a proxy starport too. Yeah, I'm with you. If you want a Hellion drop, you don't really need to do this unless he just really didn't want to connect his reactor to the factory and he just wanted to make sure that he could produce a lot of Marines at home. I'm a bit confused, but I'm curious to see how this plays out, as Stats is actually heading into 4-gate blink.
Yes, if Stats has any sort of defense against this, the follow-up attack is going to be so deadly, because there's not going to be tanks at home, right? There's going to be nothing but Marines and bunkers. So you need to do so much damage here as Cure, because even if you kill 10 plus workers, the chance of Stats getting that back on the counterattack is extremely high.
What? So
one medevac? I don't get it.
Yeah, so we have 3 Hellions in a medevac, and there is obviously a lot of potential. This is actually kind of a cool place to unload, because you don't have any vision in the right corner of your main base. And Stats' Stalkers, I believe, are a bit out of position. These Hellions will one-shot workers, and Cure will be off to a pretty hot start. Obviously, Stats immediately knows what's up. He's probably wondering, like, why is it not 4 Hellions? That is 9 probes. Yeah, I'm still with you, Waddy. Like, yeah, this looks really good. This was awesome. But how many units will we have at home? Cure, it needs to be bunker galore at home, because Stalkers are heading your way and they're out for blood.
I mean, it is at the moment. Second bunker on the natural, one on the way in the main base as well.
Yeah.
You need them. All you have is pure Marine production. Extra Stalkers warping in. The others are walking across the map. You gotta make something happen right now on this defense, as Cure I mean, this bunker in the main not even ready, and Stalkers can kite these Marines. Look at that, just one shot Marine every single time. 3 kills, right? The Prism can lift up, get the 4 Stalkers out of there. 6 more probes have gone down, though, so I think
We don't mind, I
just
guess.
wandered into the nap.
Yeah, I think it just walked in there. Oh, no, the medevac actually turned around. Yeah, that's cool. So he unloaded the Hellions, flew the medevac back, and he does repair the bunker. So all of a sudden, things are starting to look quite promising for Cure. Still needs to make sure he's bulletproof at home, but the first Marauders are entering the battlefield, and that's going to make his life a bit easier.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot better every time that, or the longer he survives against these Stalkers, the better it's going to be for him, as the Widow Mines are going huge on the other side. Now it really is damage you can't really recover from his stats unless you get a lot done right now. Yeah, this is crazy. He's down 20 workers, so he needs to win the game with Stalkers and Adepts in Q's main base. And in fairness, he's still doing damage, but like you said, the Marauder count is getting there. He lost one of them, though, and I guess he's not mining too much. Is there a Ray, Roddy?
Oh no, he's not repairing the bunker in time. Well, losing the bunker in the main means I think there is almost no way, even though there's still quite a bit of firepower. But I love the Adepts of stats. I think it's very smart. They're good against SCVs, and they're also kind of tanky against the Marines and the Marauders. Stats needs to micro his heart out here, but I think he's doing it. He has killed 28 SCVs already, still has Blink Stalkers in the main. There is no bunker, no stim. I think this is a stats victory.
If he repairs the bunker, the difference that makes is huge. Micron with the Prism right now, a secondary blink for these Stalkers. He needs them against the Marauder shots. Yeah, he needs anything he can get. He only has 3 workers, by the way, back at home stats, so he can't build anything else. It really comes down to this set of units, and his Stalkers are super low HP. Losing them right now. They're out of shields and everything, Roddy. He should have maybe backed away for a moment and got some more shields or something. Hard call to make. 1 worker each.
I can't believe it. Cure is actually stabilized on 1 SCV. Like, I knew that Stats was losing probes, but I didn't think he'd lose all of his probes. GG. Cure, with a huge sigh of relief, ties things up. Waddy, that got really wild. First, it looked like it's Cure's game. Then it's like, nah, that's too much Protoss. But then I thought, like, as long as Stats is like 10, 12 probes, you can always wipe in a few more units. You have a lot of micro potential. But he had 1, so he really needed to go pedal to the metal. That was a crazy ending of game 2.
And I'm sat there, I'm waiting for like the warp in to happen because that prism's just stationary, right? I'm like, okay, warp in. I'm like, why isn't he warping in? I'm like, oh my God, 3 workers left. What has happened here? It's all gone wrong. Wow, what a way for this series to tie up. Q gonna give himself some hope, perhaps. Of course, a little rough for stats, depending on other results. That map loss might cost him later down the line. Oh, but exciting game.
Yes, that got really exciting. I mean, at one point we're like, oh, he lost 6 more probes at home. It's like, that's kind of bad. Did Widowmines just walk in? It's like, oh no, that's that medevac that turned around immediately. I was like, yeah, that's a cool play. I feel like I've seen Maru do that in the past. And then we see him killing a few more probes and getting massive shots in the main. We're like, that's awesome, but you still need to clean up that Protoss army at home. And then when he lost the bunker, I was like, well, I think that's it, right? Because now you're not going to clean up those units anymore. You don't have stim either. But all of a sudden, just pulled every single SCV out of the natural tool. And stats went from 10 probes to 1. And yeah, then it becomes pretty difficult to warp in. That was pretty crazy.
It was just the last couple of units, right? It felt like they might have even been able to do something. Maybe it's so hard to kind of back away in that moment because the Terran still has mules, so maybe they can still build. But maybe if he just got some shields back, it gives them the slight margin for error on the pickup micro. But yeah, it was just super close, super intense. It's very hard to call that one. And well, I mean, what a way for the game to go.
I was keeping an eye on the webcam of Stats too, and even Stats cracked a little smile while he was microing his heart out on his final Force talk. And he's like, I can't believe that just happened, kind of leaned back in his chair, let a little smile go, and he's like, well, I guess it is what it is. On to game 3, as we are, I think, close to loading into Pillars of Gold. I mean, a good victory for Cure, and hopefully that gives him a little bit of momentum, because we know he needs it. Absolutely needs a victory here, and then needs to win the next series too, to keep his dreams of making it into the round of 12 alive.
Absolutely. Pillars of Gold, we've seen stats open with 2 different, kind of more aggressive Twilight-focused openers. Do you think it might be time to take a step back, Roddy? Maybe go something like Phoenix-focused, especially if Q is trying to do early damage like these Hellion drops?
Well, I think it can also just be a Twilight opening, but then just take your 3rd and 4th gas and just go Blinkstalker Colossus, right? Because that's kind of the strategy I expected to see out of stats. Where it's like, all right, I'm going to sit back, you're going to try to kill a couple of workers, and I don't think it's really going to work out. And then once I'm on 3 bases, heading into 4, that's when I will start getting aggressive and start moving out on the map.
All right, well, let's see if the Terran can continue the momentum that he just built up in game number 2. A close victory for Q.
the bottom left side of Pillars of Gold, we're taking a look at the main base. Couldn't prevent himself from laughing a little about the way Game 2 played out. The Shield of Fire, it stands.
All right. I'm excited to see what Stats brings on this map. This is an interesting map, right? Because this is one of the maps where you can actually wall off and hide your tech without the Terran player being able to see it. So I think that might have something to do with how Stats chooses to build here as well. He can be a little bit sneakier with what he's actually going into. So interested to see exactly what that may be. For now, setting up for the Nexus. Obviously, Q are doing the same at home for the Command Center. Pretty typical expansions at the moment.
I think Pillars of Gold is just a nice map to play that defensive macro-oriented style as a Protoss. We have seen Protoss players get a little aggressive here too with the 4-gate Blink Stalker opening. That's clearly wanted to go for in a normal manner on Romanta's side, not in a manner of I'm gonna close my eyes to everything that's happening at home and I'm gonna try to win the game, but just blink around a little bit and be aggressive. It's also a really good Stargate map, so like you said, I wouldn't mind seeing that either.
Gonna be seeing our Reaper coming through as the SCV builds the CC up. Yeah, I'd like to see it for the switch up, but like you said, I think there's other ways to switch it up as well and still be interesting off the Twilight Council, show us things we've not seen before. Something that does just build you safely into the macro game, right? Stalker Press, or straight up Stalker Colossus without the third base. Options are there. Cybercore's about to be done, Roddy. All our questions will be answered very soon as to just what Stats wants to get up to.
And these groups are so wild, right? Because in the beginning of this best of 3, we're like, if Stats wins 2-0, he could still very well win the group. If he loses this best of 3, Waddy, Stats actually still has the risk to be eliminated in this group too. That's just how close everything can be with just 1 or 2 best of 3s left to go. And it is going to be the Stargate, so I guess our wishes have been answered. And we'll see if Cure can get a scout on it and actually get ready for it too. Is it once again a double barracks opening on the side of Cure?
Yes, second rack's on the way up. I love this Reaper though. Really timed out well with the Adept moving out, so you get straight in, gets to see the Stargate. That's information you don't always get your hands on Pillars of Gold. So really good movement with the Reaper, good timing of going in, and that's just a free scout.
Yep, and I don't think this Adept can really do a whole lot in the natural of the Terran player. He sees that either. It's obviously a bit different than we saw it in game 1, right? On Death Aura it was a barracks, a factory, and then a second barracks. This game is a straight up 2 barracks opening and then a factory, which probably means that Cure is going to have very early access to Stim. That's not all that bad against Phoenixes, Waddy.
No, it is absolutely not, and it depends what these Phoenix are going to do. He looks like he'll rally the first one across the map, so that is good in this scenario, because finding out that it's multiple racks is extremely important for how many Phoenix you want to end up building.
In a way, it worked out that Cure saw the Stargate, and this is also a perfect scout, of course, and this could potentially get an SCV kill. 1 shot away. Nope. Good little wall, but we'll still get the final shot, question mark. Yes.
Yeah, and he gets out. Into the natural for maybe a second SCV. Can't save itself. 1 HP Adept. Ooh.
That SCV is having none of it. Yeah, I actually think it would have been a lot harder for Stats to figure this out if his Stargate didn't get scouted by the Reaper, because then I don't think you want to reveal your first Phoenix. Some people do, but most Protoss players at this level, they prefer to keep their Phoenixes at home if the Terran doesn't know that they are playing Phoenix. And then I'm also obviously going to assume that most of the time the Adept doesn't casually shade into the main base. So I'd say this worked out for Stats in the end, despite the fact that his Stargate got scouted so early.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. I think he's pretty happy with this. Gets a couple more workers now, and obviously should be able to get the gateway unit count up to where it needs to be to deal with what will be no Stim. Don't lose the Phoenix, though. Those are things you need to keep alive.
They're pricey, Waddy. Do you agree that the Phoenix is just a little bit too expensive?
A little too expensive?
I'm kidding.
Yeah, I don't think you got me on your side for that one, Roddy.
Oh, good. I actually like the movement of a lot of these Marines. This is super annoying to play against. Once again, kind of intercepts a Phoenix. And even if you don't kill these Phoenixes, you're keeping him busy, you're keeping the Phoenixes at bay, you're not losing any SCVs, and you're even doing a little bit of real damage. As you guys can see, some of these Phoenixes are in the yellow. Well done by Cure.
Yep. I like it. Just it makes it so dangerous if there's a Widow Mine as well, so like that, as we see the double drop somehow sneaks out with the Phoenix through the top side. So the Phoenix will get SCVs, yes, but missing the information on the drop could cause problems further down the line. Don't get me wrong, the damage is good, but it could just be more damage from Cure.
Yes, but I also think if you are able to fly in like this with Phoenixes, you immediately know a drop is heading your way, because it's never supposed to be that easy. Cure is a world-class Terran player, so if those units aren't at home, they're clearly heading towards your side of the map. Stats still a little bit out of position, but nope, he's not. The Phoenixes have made it home. So in the end, the timing was picture perfect for Stats there. Well done, because that's very close, right? It's a matter of seconds, but 4 or 5 seconds of these Marines unloaded in the main base, and it's -7 probes.
Yep, absolutely. And this is annoying, maybe losing the Cyber Core. Some Adepts move forward with the Immortal and we'll save the Cyber Core for the moment. In general, this is just an annoying position to have to deal with, though, right? That, you know, those units can go there again. At some point, it's maybe even just...
Oh, Sentry!
Don't lose the Sentry. At some point, I was going to say you don't want to maybe even defend this anymore, but yeah, losing a Sentry, that's a Guardian Shield you might be missing now.
Oh, absolutely. If he doesn't have a Colossus out, he desperately needs a Guardian Shield. Because the rest of the army of Stats needs to be careful with his Phoenix. Oh my goodness. If he loses these flying over Marines, this game could very well just end. Takes a lot of damage. Where is that Giraffe when you need it the most, Wardy? Like, it's 99% done, but I feel like it's been 99% done forever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's just going to be seeing the couple of different units in a couple of different places, and Stats having to run around. He needs some of that defense that he had in game number 1 at the moment.
I feel like Stats is struggling a little bit, and main base could be a little bit exposed. Marines still trying to get lucky from the low ground. They pick off a Stalker, a Sentry, and a Adept. Look at this trade. Sure, a couple of Marines are going down, but that's not a bad trade for Cure at all, because those were just Marines for units that cost a lot of gas, and even the Immortal was taking a beating. I feel that Cure, even though he's down a couple SCVs, is starting to take control of this game.
Yeah, I like what he's been able to pick off, and even that Immortal getting very low as well. Definitely feels like Stats is scrambling a little bit, but in theory, it should get a little bit easier from here on out, Roddy, because he's got the Colossus count now building up. He's still actually adding to the Phoenix count a little bit as well, so the idea should be that he can control the drops, control the forward pushes, and maybe just stabilize into, again, that later stage where he looked so good earlier.
Phoenixes are looking for Terran units. You know they're out there somewhere, but he just doesn't know exactly where they are. He's about to find these units, but this is right when the Widowmine drop is unloading in his third base. I gotta say, amazing job by Stats to keep an eye on that, because I would always be focused on that army that showed up on my minimap. But the mine is still annoying. It's burrow. Dropping Marines on top of a Colossus feels like a very adventurous move. Widowmines need to burrow.
He's going to get a fair amount. The Widowmine's connecting at the end. I felt like that was actually going to be better for Cure, if I'm going to be honest at first, but he gets chased away, doesn't get that much done. His medevac's being hunted down by the Phoenix. He kills off one of them. I mean, a kill on either side. Feels like... I don't know who really is winning this, Roddy. I feel like Stats obviously stalled a little bit on 3 bases in his work account, and that might be his biggest problem of all.
I think that's the beautiful thing of this game. It's close, and that's the kind of stuff we want to see. Obviously, there's a lot on the line for both players here. Stats technically has the right units to stabilize and make sure that this turns into a much longer game, and then eventually get some stuff going his way. But these mines are still able to find some damage. Losing a Colossus obviously sucks, even if it was at the cost of a lot of Marines. But I think you're okay with losing Marines, right? If there's one thing you have to lose as a Terran player, it's Marines. There is a triple drop heading towards the third. He just used recall, Wadi. The main army is decently far out of position. Cure is playing at a very nice pace here.
Yeah, he really is just keeping Stats running around everywhere. The Widowmines get some good splash onto those Zealots as well. And the probe count has already been falling too, as now he's set up a little bit on the left-hand side. Doesn't keep anything alive on the right, but again, it's already been a good trade for him.
Where has this Cure been all day long? Like, he's suddenly pushing a pace we haven't seen yet today. Obviously needs to be careful, could potentially end up losing a couple of medevacs here, but he found a lot of damage in the last minute of this game. This sucks a little bit. Maybe it would have been cool to split them up in different directions, but we have another tiny drop potentially heading towards the main. Stats is still hanging in there, but he's down 4 workers. And I think everyone knows at this point a Protoss player is not supposed to be down 4 workers. And we haven't seen a single Zealot run by. And that's honestly all to the credit of Cure, who's just keeping Stats incredibly busy at home.
He really, really is. Stats about to get up to that Templar Archives. Maybe that gives him some openings, as we do have Cure not quite finding much in the last moment or so at least. And he's going to start teching up a little bit more himself. That Ghost Academy coming down. If there's one thing Cure hasn't had, Roddy, it is that he's been pretty low on tech, right? He has only just now set up a second starport as well, so it's been very bio-focused, and if Stats can just get up to, you know, the extra Colossus, the few Archons moving in, then Cure really does need the Ghost and the Vikings to start fighting against this.
Yep, and Stats actually seems like he wants to hit a timing right before those ghosts are out. May need an extra unit or two here, but the army of Stats is about to run into the natural of Cure, while Cure has a lot of units about to run into the natural of Stats. Marty, this is getting wild once again.
Oh, it's gonna get crazy, Roddy. Orbital commands are lifting. There's a Nexus that can't lift off, but it will just have to tank that damage. There is an army from Stats here to slow this down, whereas Cure doesn't seem like he has much on the other side from what I've seen so far. He's also got units on that third base as well, though. Stats, what can he make of this situation? There's so many Widow Mines just scattered around. It's very dangerous at the moment to move
I feel like
anywhere.
Stats needs to get on top of the production though, right? I think the longer he waits, the worse this gets. I was with you. I think the army that Stats had was powerful enough to steamroll everything that Cure had on Cure's side of the map. But Stats just gave Cure quite some time. Oh my goodness, what the hell was that? A million probes just went down, but Stats is fully sending it in the main base of Cure. But look at these supplies, Waddy. Sure, it's a lot of SCVs, but Cure is finding an insane amount of damage.
He really, really is. Stats needs to make sure nothing else comes out of Cure. The army supplies are dead even, and Stats' army will not be growing any further at all.
He's got one probe left. He rallied all of his probes towards the third, where two Widow Mines just blew up pretty much all of them. And I think if I'm Cure, I indeed bring the units home. He's gonna send the SCVs forward to tank a little bit of damage. And I think that Cure has kind of done it, even though he's not getting everything here. But with the other units that are heading towards the main base of Cure, he should be able to clean this up, right? Gotta stim in, you gotta go right now.
Yeah, he's got to go right now. I mean, Stats is bringing his army across the map. He goes for the recall. Both the Colossus go down anyway. Phoenix doing what they can. Stats' other army, though, is showing up, Rod, and he's going to get on top of the third base. So that's the last set of SCVs from Cure. He doesn't have much economy left behind this either, but he also needs to make sure these units stay clumped together because he needs them for the fight if Cure pulls the trigger.
He has two more Colossi. Where did those even came from? I guess those were the ones defending at home. Stats has two probes out on the map, and now all of a sudden it's Cure who's not mining anymore. And maybe Stats' leftover army is strongly good, or slightly good enough. We have Vikings on the way. Like 4 to 6 Vikings, and I'm kind of feeling Cure again, but I don't know if Stats wants to give that amount of time to Cure. This game is nuts.
As the observer, so the Widow Mine can be picked off from a distance. These Colossi are going to be valuable, but that's what the Vikings are for, to try and slow that down. But then the Phoenix are here to protect. Love the Orbital Command trying to block the way. Stats are just going to go for it, Roddy, moving forward. Phoenix lifting up what they can as well. A Mule comes down, trying to tank some damage. Anything possible to help out. Zealots making their way in, and Cure is still pulling back, trying to survive. Does he have enough to make it work? The Vikings are dying.
He barely has any bio units left, but the last few Marauders are standing strong on the ground. I didn't even see them anymore, but that's it. GG. Cure wins a ridiculous Game 3 against Stats.